Good morning, it's Tuesday and welcome to you from Penn Vicarage. Hope you are really well and cheerful today. Just thought I'd update you before I do the talk for this morning about what's going to happen vis-a-vis these talks next few days. Next few days I'm going to be doing requests, and if any of you have any favourite readings you'd like me to look at, just let me know at the bottom and I'd love to do them. For a few days before Christmas, some of my colleagues who are preachers in our church are going to give their thoughts on the carol service readings. That sort of starts next Monday, Tuesday next week. I'll have a short break between Christmas and New Year. Then afterwards we'll resume the Bible readings for morning prayer. And look what they are actually. January it's 1 Corinthians, and in February we're looking at the Gospel of John. So some lovely readings to look forward to in the new year. But the next video, as I say, requests. And this one this morning has been requested by Joan Bartlam. So Joan, this one's for you. It's Luke's Gospel and chapter 2. I'm going to start at verse 22. Just to remind you what's happened, Jesus has been born in the early part of Luke chapter 2. And then when he's a tiny baby, his parents take him to Jerusalem, to the temple, which is what they had to do in those days. So here we go, Luke's Gospel, chapter 22, beginning to read at Luke chapter 2, beginning to read at verse 22. So it's 2:22. When the time came for their purification, according to the law of Moses, they brought Jesus up to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord. As is written in the law of the Lord, every firstborn male shall be designated as holy to the Lord. And they offered a sacrifice according to what's stated in the law of the Lord, a pair of 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. Now there was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Simeon. And this man was righteous and devout, looking forward to the consolation of Israel, and the Holy Spirit rested on him. It had been revealed to him by the Holy Spirit that he would not see death before he had seen the Lord's Messiah. Guided by the Spirit, Simeon came into the temple, and when the parents brought in the child Jesus to do for him what's customary under the law, Simeon took him in his arms and praised God, saying, "Master, now you are dismissing your servant in peace, according to your word. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the presence of all people, a light for revelation to the Gentiles, and for the glory of your people Israel." And the child's father and mother were amazed at what was being said about him. Then Simeon blessed them and said to his mother Mary, "This child is destined for the falling and rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that many will oppose. So the inner thoughts of many will be revealed, and a sword will pierce your own soul too." And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, many of you will recognise those. They're the wonderful words from what's known in choral evensong or evensong as the Nunc dimittis, and some amazing tunes, amazing music is written into that. I always say that when I die, I want to go out to the church to Stanford in B flat, Nunc dimittis. The only trouble with that is you probably hear someone joining from inside the box. That's another story for another day. Anyway, lovely music, wonderful words, Nunc dimittis, and some of us who go to evensong especially know these words really, really well. So, just to remind you, I want to give you just 3 things this morning from this. I mean, there's so much I could say, I know the words so well. The first thing to say is, and I guess you can put your starters for 10 on this one as you want, Luke is very, very keen to tell us that what Mary and Joseph did was according to the law of the Lord. They actually say it 3 times. Luke says it 3 times, according to the law of the Lord. And it's quite interesting actually, because you've got to remember that although Luke wasn't Jewish, Luke was actually a Gentile himself. He was a friend of Paul, went around with Paul. Even though he wasn't Jewish himself, Luke goes to great lengths here to tell us, listening, that Jesus was brought up well and truly according to the traditions of the Jewish law. Very, very keen to let us know that Mary and Joseph brought Jesus up according to the law of the Lord. Now, interesting, as I say, because Luke, who wrote it, wasn't a Jew, and he wasn't writing to Jewish people particularly as far as we're aware, but nonetheless, Luke still wants us to know, rams home, the message that Jesus has brought up well and truly according to the law of God, and like a good Jewish boy, really. I'd be very interested to hear as to why you think that might have been the case. So that's the first thing. Jesus has been brought up by his mum and dad very much according to the law of the Lord. Second thing I want to say is about Simeon. And I think it's interesting and fascinating, really, as I say, that these words that Simeon says have been put to such amazing music. Because I've often said that when you read the Bible, don't just read it with your head, read it and feel it with your heart as well. And imagine what's going on here. You have this guy, Simeon. It doesn't actually say he was old, but it kind of implies it, I think. You've got this old man, and all his life he's waited for this moment. All his life he has waited for what the Bible calls the consolation of Israel, and now he sees it. It reminds me a bit of, when you watch someone getting a gold medal at the Olympic Games. They're not just getting it for the performance on the day, they're also getting it for all those early morning training sessions and the work and the effort and, as I say, the training and the diets and all that type of stuff. They've waited all their life for this moment. And that is the case with Simeon here. All his life, Simeon has waited for this moment. So when I imagine Simeon, I always think of Simeon holding this child in his arms. And I want you to imagine a really emotional scene. Here he is, tears pouring down his face. Lord, now I can die in peace. Lord, dismiss your servant now. I can go now. My life is fulfilled. I've seen what I've waited all these years to see. So when you read these words, I think, feel them with your heart as well. Imagine the sheer raw emotion that's going on for Simeon as all his years he's waited for this moment. Now he says to God, I can die in peace. I'm fulfilled. I can die a fulfilled man. That's the second thing. The third thing is the words that Simeon says. He holds the child in his hands and he says, for my eyes have seen your salvation, a light to reveal, which are prepared before face of all people, a light to reveal you to the nations and the glory of your people Israel. In other words, Simeon says he's seen a lot of things. He says he has now seen a light to reveal you to the nations and the glory of your people Israel. But what in reality has Simeon actually seen? Well, I'll tell you what Simeon hasn't seen. He hasn't seen throngs and throngs of people coming into church, praising God. Simeon hasn't seen an army boot out the Romans or any such thing, or anything like that. What has Simeon actually seen? What Simeon has actually seen is a child. And he's saying, this child is the light to reveal you to the nations and the glory of your people Israel. This child is what it's all about, Not kicking everybody out or amazing people thronging into church or whatever it would be. This child is the light to reveal you to the nations and the glory of your people Israel. And I think we need to remember, actually, in our Christian faith, that our faith is all about this child. Our faith is about Jesus. Jesus is the light to reveal God to the nations and the glory of his people Israel. Our faith is in Jesus. Our faith is not in a religion, it's not in a code, it's not in a book. Our faith is in a person. Our faith is in this Jesus Christ. And that's what I want us to remember this morning. So three things for you briefly this morning. Firstly, and I'd be fascinated to know what you think of the reasons, why you think the reasons may be, Luke is very keen for us to know that Jesus was brought up well and truly inside the Jewish faith, brought up that way very much according to the law of God by his parents, the first thing. Secondly, I want you to get hold of the emotion that Simeon has been waiting all these years, and just feel that with your heart as well. And thirdly, ask yourself the question, what did Simeon actually see? And it's this child who it's all about. And actually, for our faith today, this child is what our faith is about too. Jesus is our salvation, and it's his birthday we're celebrating, whatever it is, 2 weeks on Friday. God bless you, have a lovely day, and I'll see you again tomorrow. And by the way, any favourite readings, do let me know. I'll try and do them in the next 3 or 4 days.